Good morning, Women Now viewers. I have my lovely co-host as usual, Anna. How are you doing today, Anna?
Well, thank you for the compliment.
Hey,
you rarely pay that compliment, and I'll
only
take it.
say it when I mean it, okay?
And do you know what we have for the show?
No, I want you to tell us. It's a surprise.
We
You
have
held
a
it from
lot
me.
of hot topics.
Okay.
So we're talking about the rupee, which is a major concern to a
Spiral
lot of us. Yes.
downwards, yep.
And you're going to meet a girl, I should say a lady. She's 17-year-old, most mature girl that you'll ever see.
Okay.
More mature than both of us put together. She has accomplished more than both of us put together.
Wow, you're really enthusiastic about this. I can't wait to see that.
We'll talk to her.
Okay.
And we'll talk about the real estate, because that is one more thing that we want to know more about, where it's going, where it's headed. So don't go anywhere, stay with us. Hey Manish.
Yes.
How did you react when you heard that rupee hit almost 70? Were you like excited, euphoric, or were you sad or worried about the people in India? What was going through your mind when you heard that?
All of the above. At first I thought, you know what, let's take a trip to India and let's go shopping. I was thinking, man, my dollar's going to go crazy. Then I thought about it, I go, you know, I did this album I told you about in '03. I have all this royalty money sitting in there, and I just thought, I'd go, crap, I lost a crap load of money. So I was kind of worried. I go, all right. And I have to admit, on the humanitarian side, I probably didn't think too much about what it means to the people, but I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that I don't understand. So
yeah, it is confusing actually, because you don't know whether to be happy or sad. Yes, you have more money for the dollar that you are here in the US. But of course, people in India, what's the future looking like? You worry about that. And obviously, some of us have kept some money back there at home. We have an expert talking about that today specifically, Anil Advani. Thank you so much for joining us here today at a very short notice.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here. Absolutely.
Cool.
Tell us what's going on. Clear our confused minds.
Yes, confusion is never good for markets, and that's really what's happening, right? Because of the uncertainty of the falling rupee, nobody knows how low it will fall, and that's created a lot of confusion, as you say, from both people, NRIs living outside India, as well as investors and companies, corporates, businesses in India that are looking to go overseas. So I think the first thing we have to keep in mind is that the government needs to take some action to create certainty around the economic issues, control the falling of the rupee, develop infrastructure. There are lots of issues, right, we should talk about, which is a much bigger sort of picture than just the rupee itself. We should talk about why we are where we are, what the government has done or should do, both has done and should not have done and should do in the future, as well as what we as NRIs can look at in terms of getting the benefits of, as well as making sure that Indian economy is stable in the future.
Now, the first thing that comes to my mind is to understand the effect and where it could really hit hard, is to really understand why it fell that much. What would you attribute as one of the key factors that drove this?
Yeah, like everything else, it's not just one factor, right? It's both macro factors, the world economy. The key factor in that, in the world economy, is that the interest rates in the US have been going up, which means it's more attractive for people to deposit their money in the US treasuries, buy US treasuries, or get higher interest rates. So it's driving people to invest more in the US, which means they have less money, obviously, to invest overseas. And that's generally affecting currencies all across the world in other countries, including India, Indonesia, Brazil, China, across the world. The other is sort of the internal issues within India, right? Corruption is a big issue. And that's driven sort of, again, created a fear of uncertainty. The
bubble, I would say, also.
It's created a bubble. There's inflation. A large amount of the foreign investors had been looking at India and sort of figuring out where India is heading. And obviously, it's part of a quarterly, monthly analysis. But in the last 3 to 6 months, that's really gone through the roof. The level of corruption, what's coming up. The food security bill has been passed this morning in India, which means government is going to subsidize food like crazy. These are all political gimmicks, and unfortunately they remind investors of the 80s, 1980s to 1990s, and that's driving fear from the institutional investors. So they're looking to pull money out, waiting to see how sort of the next 6 months, 12 months through the elections will pan out.
Now, on the flip side, let's talk about what it means to the people, because that's something that we're always interested on this show. If you're the average person living in India, what does this do to you when the rupee drops? I mean, that's for those of us that are not economists and never took a class in economics. What does it mean?
And it's both for people who are not economics or not involved in the day-to-day business, as well as people involved in the business day-to-day. And I'm spending a great amount of my time on late night calls just trying to figure out to explain to my clients what's happening. One of the key developments has been the Reserve Bank of India has come out with new regulations. Reserve Bank of India has done what bureaucrats do best when they don't understand things. They just put a freeze to business. And what they've done is limited the amount of investments individuals and corporates can make overseas. Again, we're going back, if you think about it, we're going back to the mentality of the 1980s and 1990s.
They couldn't invest money out.
Where they can't invest money out from India.
I would like to buy things in India or invest in India because I'm getting more value for my buck.
Yeah, I mean, so I think we have to distinguish between you buying some additional, personal items, right?
Let's say property.
Well,
how does that get
again,
affected?
that goes back into the confusion and uncertainty. You're not going to buy property today because you don't know how long or how low that dollar will flow, right? I mean, will fall. If it's going to hit 100, then you really don't want to be shipping money overseas, right, or to India because that's going to be a big loss for you.
That's right.
Because of the Indian economy also, I think real estate is the big domino. Again, I don't want to be, I don't want to create any fear, but no one's really talking about how fast and how sort of inflated real estate prices are. A lot of that has been driven by the growth in the Indian economy. The Indian economy actually grew at 4.4%, which is the smallest rate of growth in the last decade. So that will affect the ability of individuals like you and us and other Indians in India, which is really the big bulk of people who buy real estate in India, to buy more property. So if you were to invest, you have to look at all the macro factors that will go into besides your personal, whatever dollars that you would send over.
So from a layman's point of view, how should we react? How should people like Manish and I, who do not understand the macro picture, how should we react to this? I mean, is there anything that needs to be done from our side in terms of securing our wealth, sending it to India, bringing back from India? What would your advice be to people like us?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I think there's no easy answer right now. I mean, if my personal thought, and this is not financial advice because I'm not qualified to give financial advice at all, is to wait and see, right? I think it's going to be until there's clear momentum one way or the other. We don't know whether the rupee will fall further, which again many economists are saying will. At least breach 70 rupees to a dollar mark. But my personal decision is to wait and see and let sort of things play out.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Manish, wait for that shopping, okay? Don't go yet.
Well, I was just about to hit the online button right now and get a few things. But
so we'll wait a few months and see, like you said. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Enjoy your shopping.
I hope it enlightened our viewers to
I mean, there's so many questions. I mean, what do you do?
Totally. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.